In this lesson, we'll take a closer look at the workflow dispatch event. We've already used it in previous lessons. It's meant for manually triggering a workflow. Remember, we used it and it added a little button in the GitHub Action UI. We had to click it, and only after that, the necessary workflow would start. Let's go ahead and create a brand new workflow by following the necessary steps and procedures to ensure everything is set up correctly and efficiently. So the 8th workflow. In this scenario, rather than utilizing the tool known as Shadow, I will be opting for the use of workflow dispatch as my preferred method. Let's commit so you can see and remember the button. So let's go into our repository and head over to Actions. Nothing is happening because the workflow is triggered manually. Let's go into the 8th workflow, and there it is, that button, guys. We have a branch here, right? There's an option. We can choose a branch. If you choose About, remember that we don't have this workflow in the About branch, and we won't be able to trigger it, through the About branch. We can only trigger it through Main because physically we are working in the main branch, and the file is located in the main branch. We can actually run the workflow right now, but I don't want to run it just yet. I want to show you how we can add some additional inputs here so that we can pass parameters into our workflow. Let's add a few different fields here. Let's go back to the editor. So, for workflow dispatch, we're going to pass an additional parameter called inputs. So we put 2 dots. And now we can build the field object. First, it's its ID. Say I want to set a title, so I'll use the keyword title, meaning I'm defining this ID right now. To avoid confusion, I'll use something like this, title custom. And next, this object should consist of a description, the type of field, whether it's required or not, and default value that this field should take. Let's establish the description. So, specifically for the description, I'm using the string tag vTitle. For the field type, I'm using string, which will correspond to a simple text field. In this case, for the required parameter, I'll set the value to true, which essentially means this field is ultimately mandatory. And I'll also set the default value Alright, we've successfully added the input to our system, and now it's time to commit this change to ensure everything is saved properly. Let's proceed by returning to our previous action, which is the 8th workflow in our sequence. We need to navigate back into this specific section to continue with our process. Let's go in here and make sure everything is set up correctly. So what we see, guys, is a new field. So the description, the field is mandatory, which is why we have an asterisk and a default value. Not bad. Let's move on. Now, when we're passing some values, it would be nice to get them back. So let's insert the output, this input, as part of the execution in our job step. It's done very easily. So now let's add a placeholder, specifically the title, then a period, followed by a space, and we refer to the variable, which is, as you are aware, contained within our inputs object, by utilizing the key that we have set here, title custom. In this scenario, let us commit and push once more one final time, as you can clearly observe. Let's refresh this page. Let's try to run the workflow. And here let's add a few exclamation marks, so it's clear that we've edited the value and we're getting this one, not the default value we set here. Now let's run this workflow. The workflow is running. Let's go in and wait for it to finish. Now, let's see what we have. In the jobs, it has been executed. And here we see that the command is being executed, and we get the value of the variable that we just passed. If you're interested in other types of fields, you can find that in the documentation. I'll probably attach the link to the lessons as well. To begin with, you have the option to configure a select component in this manner, which allows for a streamlined selection process. Similarly, you can configure a checkbox component in a comparable way, ensuring consistency across your interface. Now, let's proceed to create these components immediately, so they are readily available in the 8th workflow we are working on. Navigate to the input section and proceed to add a new input to your project. In this instance, I am utilizing the select customs as the identifier, which serves as a unique label for this particular input, ensuring it is easily recognizable and distinguishable from other inputs. This approach not only enhances the organization of your workflow, but also facilitates easier management and modification of inputs as needed. Description. I'll specify the type as choice. This field is required. Next, since this is a select, meaning the type is choice, I need to pass the options. So, the options. The first will be value 1, value 2, value 3. However many you need, we'll pass value 4 as well. And we can also pass a default value. Let's make it value 2. Now, let's also add a custom checkbox. We'll call the new field the custom check. Its description will be checkbox and its type will be boolean. So options, the first one will be value 1. Value 2, value 3 as much as you need, and we pass value 4, and we can also pass the default value default for us. Let's have value 2, so let's have a custom checkbox 2. We will pass a new field. The third field, we will call it a custom check. So description, it will be a checkbox. Its type will be boolean in order to ensure that, as needed, in this context. And let's set required to false in this particular case. Alright, so now we've added 2 more fields to our workflow. Let's also make sure to output the values of these fields. They're also in this object, just under different keys. So specifically, the select is under the key select custom and the check is under the key check custom. Let's fix the spaces here. As you can see, everything is now ready. At this point, let's run a new commit and push and check these new fields that we just added. Let's refresh the page. Let's take a look at our workflow. So, the old text field, the new one, the second option is selected by default, since that's what we set. And the checkbox is optional by default, and since we didn't set anything for it, it's empty. Let's select the checkbox, change the value to the 4th one, and just write the word world as the title, then run the workflow with these new parameters. Let's open it. Wait for it to complete to make sure all the fields are being passed. So it has been executed. Let's take a look. And as we can see, all the fields are being passed successfully. But the only thing is we didn't change the placeholder. We have the title everywhere. But this doesn't affect the functionality or the understanding of the idea of passing such variables. And with that, we conclude this lesson. See you in the next lesson.